Hey guys, welcome back to another video with Iyanla Empowers. In today's video, we'll be discussing landforms, which was per a request of a subscriber who commented that you'd like me to talk about landforms a bit. So that's what I'm doing. I promised her this week, so fulfilling that promise. Before we get into the video, please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and comment below your favorite part of the video or if you learned something new. Now let's get into it. Now, what are landforms? Well, a landform is simply a feature on the Earth's surface, and it's a part of the Earth's terrain. Now, we all are associated with landforms. We see them all around us. So our major landforms are mountains, hills, plateaus, and plains. And minor landforms includes buttes, canyons, valleys, and basins. And if we look to the right of our picture or slide, well, I'm looking at a slide right now. Well, the right of your screen, you'll see some other landforms. So we see volcanoes, glaciers, we see mesas, domes. What else are we seeing? We're seeing islands. It's so much landforms that are there. And like I said before, we are surrounded by them. We see them every day. Some of us live on hills. We, see valleys sometimes. We're surrounded by it. Of course, it's a feature on the Earth's surface. Alright, so let's just reiterate our major landforms. So we have our mountains, our hills, our plains, and our valley. Okay, but how are landforms formed? Well, they are formed by tectonic plate movement, which is the movement of the Earth's crust under the Earth, which creates landforms by pushing up mountains and hills. Now, tectonic plate movement is a whole topic by itself, and when studying that topic, we'll get more detail on how exactly these landforms are truly formed. However, this is just an overview, and when speaking on each landform in more detail, we'll get a better understanding of how everything works. Another process by how landforms are formed is erosion. So erosion by water and wind can wear down land and create landforms like valleys and canyons, and both processes happen over a long period of time, sometimes millions of years, which we know because if we have heavy rainfall or heavy winds today, we don't expect a piece of land or, for example, a mountain to be worn down by tomorrow, creating a valley. It's just simply impossible and cannot happen, and therefore takes millions of years. But now let's look at our major landforms in more detail. So the first landform we're going to discuss are mountains. Now, a mountain is an elevated portion of the Earth's crust. They usually have steep, sloping slides. Why do I always say slides? I think because I'm used to that sloping slides, but they usually have steep, sloping sides and sharp or rounded ridges and a high point, which is called a peak or summit. So every mountain has a peak or summit, which is the highest point of the mountain. How are mountains classified, however? If it rises at least 300 meters, which is equivalent to 1,000 feet above surrounding land, it is classified as a mountain. So in Jamaica, we have Blue Mountain, Trample Mountains, so many mountains surrounding us. And we're going to go in a bit more detail, so let me not spoil anything. Now, the world's tallest mountain ranges. Okay, so the world's tallest mountain ranges are formed when pieces of the Earth's crust. Okay, let me just stop right there. What is wrong with me today? First it was sloping slides, now it's Earth's crust. Or crush. What did I even say? Listen, when pieces of the Earth's crust smash against each other in a process called plate tectonics, which we brought up before, and buckle up like the hood of a car in the head-on collision. No, I know this might be new to a lot of people, that's why I have a picture of a car crash to kind of show how exactly mountains are formed. So here we have to the left a picture of Blue Mountains, Jamaica, then to the right a car crash. And they're like, Iyanla, why is there a picture of a car crash? But we're going to show how some mountain ranges are formed. Now, if we look right here, we see that when the silver car collides with that black car right there, that hood of the car, which is usually flat to cover the engine and other important parts, it now rises and buckles up. So we're seeing that. So it's basically when one car smashes into the other, it causes the hood to rise and buckle up, and that's basically an imitation of what happens with the Earth's crust. So two plates collide together, they smash, they're usually of the same density, so none sinks, and it just rises and goes up just like the hood of a car right here. So this is just an example for you to get a better understanding. Alright, let's move on. So mountains often serve as geographic features that define natural borders of countries. Their height can influence weather patterns. So these are just purposes of mountains. Pretty self-explanatory. The rugged landscapes can provide refuge and protection for fleeing and invading armies. Okay, and usually this would be for typically back in the days, but maybe it still happens now. And also the cool weather is also great for farming crops that requires cooler temperatures for growth, such as coffee. And what comes to mind for me is in Jamaica, coffee is typically grown in the Blue Mountains, where it is cooler and it's the best place for coffee to grow. So let's have a fun fact right now. Now, the world's tallest mountain above sea level is Mount Everest at 8,850 meters, which is 29,035 feet above sea level. And if we see a picture here, we see some hikers that's climbing Mount Everest, and I heard that it's a rigorous journey. Some persons die up there, and whoo, I don't know, I won't be climbing Mount Everest, but maybe if that's your thing, you can try it. Alright, let's talk about hills now. Now, a hill is a piece of land that rises higher than everything surrounding it, similar to a mountain. However, compared to mountains, they are less steep and not as high, hence why they are called hills and not mountains. But like a mountain, a hill will usually have an obvious summit, which is the highest point. So they are similar. They have a summit or a peak, which is known as the highest point, and the hill summits are usually less than 1,000 feet. So it is classified as a hill if it is less than 1,000 feet, which should be less than 300 meters, and then if it rises above that, it is a mountain. Alright, so let's talk more about hills now. So hills are formed all the time by different types of geological activity. One of these activities is faulting, which, as I said, is a part of plate tectonics. It's kind of a topic of its own, so this will need a little bit more research. However, I'm going to try to explain it as much as possible. And faulting happens because the rocks underneath the Earth's surface are constantly moving and changing the landscape. So it's never one place, it's always moving. It's always moving for many different reasons, and hills formed by faulting can eventually become mountains. Now, the Himalayas in Asia, which is the tallest mountain range, not the tallest mountain, but the tallest mountain range in the world, were once tiny hills. Can you imagine that? They were once tiny hills, and they continued to grow because of faulting activity beneath the Earth's surface. So you can definitely check that out. Check out how the Himalayas looks right now, and imagine them as hills, right? So hills are also formed because of erosion, which happens when bits of rock, soil, and sediment get washed away and placed in a pile somewhere else, and this pile begins to grow. So there's a lot of rock, there's a lot of soil, there's a lot of sediment that's compiling in one area, which in turn forms hills. And it's usually what forms hills as well, because they're not really as high as mountains. So usually this is a process that can form hills and not mountains. Now, hills can be destroyed by erosion as material is worn away by wind and water. So what builds it can also destroy it. Can you imagine that? Hills can also be created by erosion as materials from other areas is deposited near the hill, which we kind of just spoke about, causing it to grow. Now, a mountain may become a hill if it is worn down by erosion. So you can have a mountain and it can be worn down by erosion and in turn turn into a hill. But of course, this is a process that takes a long time, millions of years. It just doesn't happen overnight. Alright, so many settlements are built on hills, either for cooler weather, scenic views, to avoid floods, particularly if they are near a large body of water, or for defense, since they offer a good view of the surrounding land and require would-be attackers to fight uphill. Alright, okay, so let me just break that down. It offers a good view to see if any enemy is in sight, hence best for defense. And it also avoids densely forested areas. if we can relate to Jamaica, we have a lot of settlements, a lot of housing schemes that are located on hills, Stony Hill, Red Hill, other hills, you know, and it's usually when you go on hills, it's usually cooler, you feel a bit more breeze, and you can always look down on the plain, so you get really good views. And also it's great for avoiding floods, as you know that water will not be associated on hills or mountains. They're usually flat near plains. So, well, of course hills rise above sea level, so right, that's my whole point right there. Okay, so on to our next major feature. So now we're at plateaus. Now, a plateau is a flat, elevated landform that rises sharply above the surrounding area on at least one side. Now, plateaus occur on every continent and take up a third of the Earth's land. Can you imagine? Did you know that plateaus take up a third of the Earth's land? So if we look right here to the left, we see a picture of a plateau, and we can see how it is flat at the top. There is not necessarily a peak or a summit, which is like a high point. Everything is relatively flat. Let's talk more about plateaus now. So there are two kinds of plateaus. We have dissected plateaus and volcanic plateaus. Now, a dissected plateau forms as a result of upward movements in the Earth's crust. The uplift is caused by the slow collision of tectonic plates, similar to what causes the formation of mountains. However, this process is a bit slower. So it's a bit slower, and it takes time, and it uplifts and it rises up. So it's a slow collision, a slow rising, which forms these plateaus. Now, the second type of plateau is a volcanic plateau, which is formed by numerous small volcanic eruptions that slowly build up over time, forming a plateau from the resulting lava flows. So as the lava flows and different small eruptions, it builds up over a period of time, forming plateaus, which is simple, self-explanatory. Now, erosion can influence the shape of a plateau. Now, soft rock often erodes away from the top of the plateau, and many plateaus are therefore topped with a hard, durable surface called the cap rock. The cap rock protects the plateau from erosion of the soil underneath it. So this is what, enhances the shapes of plateaus. Erosion kind of erodes the soft rock, the easier rock to get away, and now you're left with this hard, durable surface, and it is known as a cap rock. And this protects the plateau from further erosion. Okay? So valleys form when river cuts through plateaus. So let's look at a picture here. We have a valley cutting through a plateau, and we see that river running through. And because the river kind of dissects the plateau, it now forms a valley. Okay, so I have another fun fact for you. So the largest plateau in the world is the Tibetan Plateau, located in Central Asia. It stretches through the countries of Tibet, China, and India, and occupies an area of 2.5 million square kilometers, which is 1.5 million square miles, which is 4 times the size of the US state of Texas. So if you didn't know, it's at 2.5 million square kilometers, okay, but then you hear that it's 4 times the size of the US state of Texas. Like, come on, that is amazing. Alright, on to our last feature, which are plains. And we should love plains and appreciate plains, because majority of us live on plains. Okay, well, I know I live on a plain. So a plain is a broad area of relatively flat land. It says relatively because it's not smoothly flat, but it's relatively flat. Now, plains are one of the major landforms or types of land on the earth. Yeah, I kind of highlighted that. They cover more than 1/3 of the world's land area, and plains exist on every continent, of course. And if we look at our picture here, this is a picture showing the Great Plains. Alright, so many plains, such as the Great Plains, that stretch across most of Central North America, are grasslands. So many plains are grasslands, and these are regions where grass is the main type of vegetation. Not all plains are grasslands, however. Some are forested, and forested plains have different types of trees, shrubs, and other vegetations. And forest, I mean, there's a lot of forest on hilly and mountainous areas as well, but we do have forest plains where different trees, shrubs, and vegetations are. And deserts can also be plains. So parts of the Sahara, a great desert in North Africa, are plains. And the Arctic, where the ground is frozen, plains are called tundra. So where it is frozen, it has a different name. Now, plains form in many different ways. Some plains form as ice and water erodes or wears away the dirt and rock on higher land. Also, volcanic activity can also form plains. Let's talk about the first point though. So it says some plains form as ice and water erodes or wears down the dirt and rock of a higher land. So if you have a higher elevation and erosion is happening, so water is eroding it, wind, and it's eroding the dirt and the rock, it's obviously going to get a bit flat, and it's not going to be smoothly flat, but as it says before, relatively flat. So that's how plains can occur. So volcanic activities can also form plains. Lava plains form when lava pushes up from below the ground and flows across the land. So when our lava pushes up, it flows across, kind of creates, and this flat area is forming plains. Now, the movement of rivers sometimes form plains as well. So many rivers run through valleys, which we kind of mentioned before, and as rivers move from side to side, they gradually erode the valley, creating broad plains. So there are many ways plains can be formed: erosion, movement of rivers, volcanic activity, and also many rivers deposit their sediment in the ocean. As the sediment builds up, it might eventually rise above sea level, forming a coastal plain. So we have so many ways plains are being formed, and how they are formed can impact their use as well. And there are so many other ways plains can be formed as well. Now, plains in many areas are important for agriculture because where the soils were deposited as sediments, they may be deep and fertile, and the flatness facilitates the mechanization of crop production, or because they support grasslands which provide good grazing for livestock. Okay, cool. So usually many of our arable farming is done on plains. One, because it kind of increases crop production with surface area, availability of machinery, so on and so forth, accessibility. Now, the soils that are also deposited are fertile, and it being deposited also means that they are deep, which is great for growing agricultural crops. Plains also serve as an area for settlement. So as I said before, I live on a plain. Majority of settlements are located on plains, infrastructures, different ports, buildings, so on and so forth. So it's really an important landform as well as the rest, but plains are very significant for me. Now, there's a lot more that can be covered under this topic, but I try to take out the main points, the points that will help you to better understand the topic as a whole. I hope that you learned something new. As I said before at the start of the video, comment if you learned something new, comment if you want clarification on something. If you like the video, let me know as well in the comments. I'm always looking out for the comments. I really like to read them. We are now at the end of the video, and I would like to thank you guys so much for watching. We have completed all four major landforms. Please remember to like and subscribe, share the channel as well. And our quote of the day is education it was why am I rushing? Our quote of the day is education is what remains after one has forgotten that one Our quote of the day is education is what remains after one has forgotten what one has learned in school. So that's from Albert Einstein. Genius. Alright guys, bye. See you in the next vid.